This is Ash from Dentistry, the place where we're passionate about sharing those unwritten hints and tips of dentistry. Today I'm really excited about this video because it's going to be talking about trying to find, in this case anyways, the mesial buccal canal, and a couple tips. You know, it's really difficult to find these canals sometimes, and look at the size of that amalgam. As well, this is the short version of a retreatment on tooth number 4.6 and the complete calcium hydroxide case on tooth number 4.7. But while I was editing the video of the retreatment, you know, there was that mesial buccal canal that was just hidden. And I was like, you know what? There was a question in our course at allthingsendo.ca that was asking, how do you find those buccal canals? And you know what? This is a great example, because what's happened here, the first tip I can tell you of looking for these difficult canals is that we've got already a large amalgam restoration on the tooth. This amalgam is probably, who knows, like 150 years old, and that pulp has regressed. A lot of difficulty in trying to find that mesial buccal canal. First thing is, before you get into those, you know, we all take periapical radiographs, but also taking a bite wing to see how much has that, you know, that orifice kind of regressed, or how much calcification has been, you know, laid over top of that orifice. So a bite wing radiograph is really helpful for that. The next tip I can tell you in helping trying to find canals, and just doing root canals in general, is make the tooth shorter. Now that's not, you can't do that all the time, I get it, but we're going to replace both these restorations, and especially this posterior one. I'm reducing it out of the patient's bite for the next few months, because we're going to be placing calcium hydroxide. In the meantime, this one's serviceable, so we're good. I'm going to take this out of occlusion. I'm only reducing it by 1 millimeter. So the shorter it is, the easier it is most of the time. So taking it out of the occlusion, what it does is it not only potentially decreases postoperative sensitivity, but it also makes it a shorter distance to get into the orifice and to the apical portion. So the next thing we're going to do, the next tip I can tell you, is remove as much as the restoration as possible. You can remove carious tooth structure, remove composite, amalgam that's in your way. When we're doing this case situation right here, I was wondering if this tooth was cracked. So I'm going to make the initial access into the restoration fairly large. And what I'm looking for is there a fracture line? But you see this right here? What that is likely a direct pulp cap. So right off the bat, I'm like, oh, okay, sweet. During our initial exam, we were looking for an isolated probing depth. Didn't find one. So that would indicate a potential vertical root fracture or a crack. And then when we get into the tooth, like, oh, sweet, we found where there's a bit of dical. So another indicator that likely there was a carious pulp exposure many years ago, and that caused the tooth to necrose over time. So another tip is just flaring this part of the coronal part of the restoration. We're getting rid of that anyways, or we're going to replace it. So what that helps us do is it helps bring more light into our preparation, but it also allows files and whatnot. Right there, see that bevel? It allows files and other hand files and instruments to get to access into the tooth a lot easier. You know, one of the things I should have done is remove this amalgam, because potentially if that falls off or fractures off, a little chunk falls in the canal. I've done that. It's fallen down to the apex. Like, oh my gosh. Trying to get that out of there is fairly difficult. What I've learned, what I've been taught, and what I've seen and practiced over time is that the mesiolingual canal is... So I want to take a second just to introduce a course that I have. It's called Root Canal Like an Endodontist. You know, have you ever felt stuck during a root canal? I have. Can't get down a canal? I have. Blocked out ledge, all of these things, but you feel alone. Just starting out in dentistry, and you kind of want to find out a few more techniques about endodontics. Well, I felt the same way. So I've taken all the stuff, all the years of experience, I put it into a course, all my training, we put it into a course. And you can go ahead and check us out at allthingsendo.ca. You know, what I really love about this course is our Facebook group, that once you purchase the course, you can get access into it. Sorry, it's one of those things. But there we share in a very a warm place. I just copied that here. Warm, but it's also a safe place to share questions and concerns about any of the cases that you have, and we walk you through it as a group. Anyways, go ahead and check us out at allthingsendo.ca. And I hope you won't be... I'm sure you won't be disappointed. We'll talk to you soon.
So what I've practiced, I've learned, and I've seen is that time and time again, the mesiolingual canal is the first canal you typically visualize when you access into a mandibular molar.
So let's take a look at where we're at. This is the mesial buccal. So the reason why I'm looking, so if you're looking in other videos, you know, we're looking at the reflection right here. This is the buccal surface, and then this would be our mesial buccal. I have a video on champagne bubble test. This is a quick champagne little test right here. I can see this is where the orifice is going to be. So this is what I'm talking about. Mesiolingual, boom, I can see it, no problem. That's really easy to do. That pesky mesial buccal. Oh my gosh. It's difficult to access this for one reason, for a couple. One, the tooth is lingually inclined, so you're already trying to have to come underneath that cusp. Two, we've got some secondary and tertiary dentin laid down. So what are we going to do? And you can see here's our, if you're not familiar with Krasner Ranko, this is the symmetry piece. You can see here's the middle of the tooth, the developmental grooves. Here's our mesiolingual orifice. And here, based on just the symmetry law, mesiobuccal should be right here. So how do you get into that? Well, I can tell you with great difficulty. Look at that. There we go. So let's zoom in right there. There we go. So this is calcification, and then there's some sclerosed pulp tissue, bottom of the floor, mesiolingual. Let's keep going here, Ash. So you're going to have a difficult time. I'm going to have a difficult time, and I have had a difficult time. Okay, so we've shaped our distal lingual. Now what we're going to do is we're going to look for our distal buccal, and you can see because our canals are offset. So you can see there's our distal buccal now, and there's our distal lingual. So these are very subtle little things, and actually this tooth here, the 4-6, actually needed a retreat because the distal lingual was missed. That's in the next video. I'm really excited to share that with you as it helps you see kind of where we're looking for these extra canals, because what ends up happening is they end up failing. These cases end up failing about 3 to 5 years out. We're just trying to better outcomes. That's all we're trying to do. All right, so here's our mesiolingual. We've opened the coronal 2/3. And what we're going to do here is I'm going to actually use a Muntz burr or an endo tracer burr. Actually, it's cheaper. They're by Comet. They're more available worldwide. And I don't get paid by anybody. So when I was watching this video to actually do the main video of the retreat and this tooth, I was like, you know what? This is such a helpful tip. And it's trying to get, and it falls in line with my video before. It's just talking about getting your instruments back into posterior teeth, and it's really difficult. So let's go ahead, see the angle. So this is what I have to do. You have to really angle. You can use ultrasonics. I don't really like using ultrasonics a lot of the time, but what I'm doing is I'm actually angling that endo tracer burr. Again, I'm not sponsored by anybody. I'm angling. You can see the angle of the tooth is like the long axis is here, and then here's the angle of my handpiece. So I'll do a little bit of troughing, and you can see, boom, right there. And of course, this is just from experience. I've done thousands of teeth, but also a lot of extracted teeth have been very helpful in kind of the feel. So I'll just do a little bit of brushing. So I ran it for what, maybe 3 to 5 seconds maximum. Then I'll take a look, and now we've opened it up a little bit more. So what I'm doing is I'm putting apical pressure towards the mesial buccal, the mesial part of the tooth. I'm not trying to touch in the furcation, and you can see we've opened up that mesial buccal canal. How do I know that's a mesial buccal canal? Well, when you have an orifice or whatnot, now the burr is spinning debris into that apical portion. So we do it dry. We don't use any type of irrigant because the dust literally going into the orifice is that clinical indicator. And there it is. So now we've got our mesial buccal, and it's as simple as that. Could we open up more, make more of a straight line access? I can tell you that certainly that would help. The next tip I can tell you is that bending my file like that, it doesn't, I've had some questions before, does that weaken the file? I haven't seemed to have that experience, but these are brand new files. And as well, I'm not taking them down to length yet. I will be. So they've only really been worked, I'd say, half a canal each. So in just the coronal portion. Coronal 2/3 opened. And you saw that I didn't use a hand file. And the reason why I did this is because it's so much easier to take my handpiece, place that file in there and I'm able to have my mirror in the way. And then I place it in there, then I hit the gas pedal, boom, down it goes. Now, does it always go down like that? No, it doesn't. Sometimes I have to fiddle around and try to get it placed into that orifice. But I'm just gonna clean and shape the coronal 2/3. When I stop my file, I'm looking to make sure it's not broken. You can see all the debris that's cutting, and now I've got that opened. Boom, that's it. So what you could do now, what might be really helpful is like you've confirmed that the canal is there. I'm going to irrigate that out, but what you could do is you could take that endo Z burr or a diamond and remove more of this, even more of this amalgam here to make your life a little bit easier, because what you're going to experience, as I've done many times, is your apex locator is going to be ringing like crazy. So that's another tip I'm going to be doing here. You see how my dental assistants suction all of the irrigant out of the pulp chamber? The reason so there's 2 stages we're going to be doing here. There's one, cleaning and shaping, and the other is just getting a working length and glide path. When I'm trying to get a working length, my canal with the pulp chamber is dry. Now, when I was beginning dentistry, I got confused because there was always like, the statement was like, oh, you always need to have some sort of irrigant in the canal to make sure your apex locator works. Well, that doesn't mean in your pulp chamber. It means literally in the canal, and it could be at the apical portion. So what happens is, especially with these amalgams, now you see what I did right there is the apex locator is ringing like crazy. So I'm going to move it off the amalgam and then see where I'm at, because the amalgam acts like a conductor. We all know that. Caries can, leaky restorations, necrotic teeth with a lateral canal, you can get a weird working length. I mean, all of these things, you know, certainly posterior teeth are not simple. I've been there. So what I'm doing is I'm just trying to fiddle around. And one of the things you can do, watch what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use the file holder as to help me place that file into the different canals. Now it looks like I'm into that mesial buccal or potentially distal buccal. I think so I'm aimed into the distal buccal now, and I'm just kind of getting I'm feeling around using the tactile sense if that's an easy drop to the apical portion. Let's take a look. Do I need to watch wind it? Those are all the types of things I'm looking for, and I'm trying to not use my fingers, because when you're doing this, it's so, put in the comments below if you know what I'm talking about. It's so difficult to get your files in. What you can do, watch what I'm going to do here. So I'm actually going to use clean shape, blah, 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 blah. And then, so we get all the way down. Stick around for the next, I'm going to go through this in the next video. So I'm using my fingers to place my 15. Then what I'm going to do is, let's see here, it's in here somewhere. There we go, right there. So if you're having difficulty putting your file in, what you can do is you can use your lip clip. So what I've done now is we've fast forwarded to a different place in the video. I'm going to use my cotton forceps to help maneuver that file around and actually help take that file in and out. So you'll see here I'm going to measure. And then what I'm doing is I'm placing my file in with my cotton forceps. It makes life so much easier. And that's it. So that is another way, because what happens is, I'm sorry, I'm going backwards here. So when you use your fingers, you can't put your mirror. There's no mirror in the way. You kind of have to do it with a bend in the file, and you have to have really straight line access in those canals. So what you can do is you can use your cotton forceps to play with a bend on your file. See, there's a subtle bend. And the bend is actually intended for me to get into the mesial part of the tooth. Now, what you can do is remove all of this restoration. If you want to make life really, much easier, remove all that restoration, and then boom. So I can use my mirror and I can place my file in without any problems. There is another tip about getting working length. I don't know if I see it here. You can use your rubber stop actually in the orifice, and that prevents it from touching the restoration. I don't know if I do it here. I'll put a little, right here somewhere, I'll put a diagram of it. Anyways, I hope that's helpful. I'm so grateful you're here. Please go ahead, like and subscribe, and check out the next video, because it's going to go into length and we'll see the outcome actually of how we haven't finished it. That'll be the third video of this case, because I'm really excited about it. We got some great outcomes, and thank you so much for joining us. Cheers. I just had some onlays cemented in literally like 2 hours ago, and Angela, who was on the left, I wanted to shout out to and say hi, because she was my old assistant and was assisting today. Awesome dental assistant, and she stopped watching the videos, so because she wasn't getting the shout outs. So here you are, we're shouting you out, and I miss working with her so much. And you too, Nicole, hiding behind the paper bag. Very nice. We'll talk to you soon.